I mean, those borders are also important in your marriage. I think, or that's also a border that you can take is if you have a conversation with that person who comes too close to you when you're married, and then you just tell the person, hey, I'm married, I have certain boundaries. We can talk about things, but not about all things. And there are some things that are appropriate, and there are some other things that are not appropriate. Like, I don't know, greet each other with a hug or something like that, or whatever, or different conversation about their private life. Ladies and gents, welcome to Voices of Life, the podcast with topics related to the apostolic faith in the 21st century. Let's talk about what interests you here on Voices of Life. Hello, family and friends. Welcome to a new episode of Voices of Life. It's us again. I hope you had a wonderful week. For you, it's going to be Thursday. For us, it's Monday. And we're here again, us four. And today we want to talk about friendships, but not a general friendship, a friendship between female and male, or male and female. I already heard from people who said there's a possibility to have a friendship between female and male with no strings attached. Is that true? Today, we want to talk about that today. So, Stephen, I'm going to ask you right now, is that possible? A friendship between male and female?
He's giving now the final answer, and then
yes. We're done. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
So I think there is not a definite answer to say generally no or generally yes, but it always depends on the person, on the people involved in the friendship. For some, it is possible. I think there can be platonic friendships where it's just friendship and, like you said, no strings attached, no feelings attached, nothing behind it, no second thought. But for me personally, my experience, and also I think for most of the people, it's not easy to keep a long and deep friendship with the opposite sex and keep it without having either side to start developing feelings in it.
Yeah, I always said that if you have feelings for someone, then because you have spent a lot of times with the... I'm so sorry, my English is rusty. Okay, I'm going to say that sentence one more time, okay? So what I wanted to say, back then, especially during my school time and young years, and now I'm going to hear again that I'm still young. I know. But when people came and said, now I have feelings for that person and that person, I asked them, and did you spend a lot of time with them? Mm-hmm. And they would say, yeah. And did you do that before? No. And all I wanted to say with that is that it happens very quickly by spending time with someone of the opposite sex that you get feelings suddenly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And especially for young people, I think, even more than for older people, maybe. So that's a first hint that maybe it's not so easy to have a friendship with the opposite sex that just stays a friendship, because I experienced many, many times that feelings did come up just by spending time with each other and starting to be fascinated by the other person, or getting, to know that person deeper, and that's kind of exciting or something. And then you have feelings suddenly and they mess everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, usually it's not the case when two guys get together and meet, or two girls get together and meet. They are friends and talking about everything. I just want to put out a little disclaimer. We are talking about Christian people that believe what the Word of God says and want to live accordingly. I'm not talking about friendships, gay friendships. We are talking about regular friendships. So if two guys get together and they are close friends, usually there are no feelings that develop, and then it becomes a romantic relationship. And it started off as being just a normal, regular relationship. But when two people meet of the opposite sex, like you guys said, this could possibly happen, that there are some feelings that develop, because the time you spend with each other, also the topics you talk about, also plays an important role. Then you start to get interested more and more in that person, in that friend. And yeah, sometimes there is the friend has let's say, romantic feelings for you, and she or he is not telling it already because they are ashamed of it or other reasons, whatever. But this possibility can always happen. And that's why you really have to be cautious when you have a friend of the opposite sex that this won't happen, especially if you are married yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a special case anyway. Just to your last point, I think there's also I don't know, maybe was a trend on Instagram or TikTok. I have no idea which of the both, but it was somehow a trend. Kiss your best friend for the first time.
Oh.
And then you'll notice, do they have feelings too? How do they kiss you back? And it was so strange to me. Like, what is going on? So that was a trend. And so even in the world, since you mentioned that with Christian friendships, that even in the world it is like that you sometimes have friendship and they say, we're just friends, and pretending, it's just a friendship, because maybe they're afraid, what will happen if I reveal that feelings, like you said, Sebastian, or will we still be friends, or will it be awkward after that? So even there we have that possibility and even that trend going now, just try it out and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's also very, especially when you're single, not only the feelings, but the physical attention you have for each other. So if you see someone where you like the body type, I would say, and that can really bring you to temptation, especially when you're with the person alone. So when I think about it, if you're single and you have a kind of friendship with a female, in our case it's now a female, then it's probably best or probably safest if you go somewhere out public or maybe with some other friends and have a whole group of friends that always can support you or can see what your guys doing. So yeah, that's a big thing with the kissing part, because after that everything can happen, and that's very, very dangerous for us Christians, I think.
I think that's a very important point that you made, that if you are just boy and girl or man and woman and you hang out just the two of you, it will always have a danger.
Yeah.
And it also will always make people talk and maybe make a bad impression or even be a bad testimony.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, what did they do there alone? We know, especially if you imagine that you went at the house of that person, just and no one knows what is happening inside there. And rumors come up, and even the Bible says you should seek, for good reputation and go after those things that have a good reputation. Think upon those things. And so I think it's not really easy for us Christians, at least, to even have deep friendships where you just talk with the other person alone privately.
Yeah.
Just you and her, or you and him, depends.
Yeah.
Just because normally you want to avoid those situations where you are alone. Like, I would never, I'm married now especially, but even before, I would never meet with just a girl or a woman privately somewhere without a third person there that is like a witness for things that are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also something which is just restricting the possibilities of friendships between man and woman in a way.
Yeah, I mean, especially even when you're married, that's a big thing to have a friendship with the opposite sex. So, and because like you said, I mean, especially when you're married, in my opinion, you shouldn't meet a woman, in our cases, by yourself, because rumors can happen, and it looks not only bad for you, but also bad for the church and for your wife as well, because she or he, depends, allows it to happen. So, I mean, also, not only that, but it gets you to a point where you can compare that person with your wife or other spouse, and that's also a big danger what we should have, I think.
Yeah, and I think this brings us to a talk about the depth of friendship in general, because of course you can have, let's say, superficial or just loose friendships with opposite sex, even while you are married, you are still friendly. Yeah. Maybe you write birthday message, or you have a birthday celebration going on or something, and you invite each other for those occasions. But it's like there are different levels of friendship that go or that don't go. Like for example, you should never talk to, I'm married and I'm a man, so I should never talk to another woman about my wife or about my private problems or about, just my personal emotions, and, like those things are for my wife and would be too deep. But if I have a good friend from who's male, for me, I can talk with him even about deeper, feelings, private feelings and stuff. It's okay then. So when you are married, then it's very clear things that you can do or that you cannot do, or they should be very clear, and you should have them figured out together and agreed upon them also, I think.
But still, you have to be careful. Not everything can be shared with a close friend, even though it's a guy, in your case, for example. Because some marital problems do not belong somewhere else because they belong to yourself, to you. And you guys have to figure it out yourself, or go to a counselor or to a pastor and talk about it, but you're not going around the church and talk about it. And also, when you said spending time with the opposite sex and having deep conversations, you really have to be careful, because this opens you up for temptations, because you won't be alone there, even though you meet alone, but there is always the spirit world around you guys, and they listen in, and then they find things how they can tempt you eventually. Maybe not right now, but maybe in the future. So that's the danger. And of course, as a pastor, I would say always, you are not going to visit somebody from the opposite sex all by yourself in their house or apartment, or they come to you and you two alone, and there's nobody else around. Like you said, because of the testimony, the reputation that is on the line in this case. And also, if, for example, if people are in the church, like they are the elders of the church, and the Bible says, if you're sick, call the elders, and they'll come over and preach. Pray for you. Maybe they preach as well, I don't know, but prayer was the word. and then as a man in our church, you are not going all by yourself to a lady that is maybe single from the church and go there and pray over her. You are not doing that. You should have somebody else with you. Of course, if you are married, then your wife should go with you, or somebody else goes with you from that church, and you are not there all by yourself. It is just wise to do so, to protect yourself. Because unfortunately, temptations happened in the past, and people fell in sin because of this simple thing of not having boundaries and protecting themselves.
And not being careful, being careless about those things. Like, oh, nothing will happen to me. Yeah, I'm good. I'm spiritual enough. Whatever you feel or think, it's the thought and the motivation. Or I don't want anything bad. I heard that oft times before. Oh yeah, I don't have any bad intentions in it. But the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things. So trusting your heart and your own feelings is not always the right way to go and just say, oh yeah, I don't feel anything right now, so nothing will happen. But it can be okay for 900 times, and the 901st time you meet, and all of a sudden there's just a short moment. It doesn't have to be like a whole day or something. It's just a short moment of being careless, being weak in some way, and it can destroy just everything. So I think that's a very important point, to not trust in your own heart and feeling like, oh yeah, I can handle it. But just be careful, like you said, Pastor. Put those boundaries in to be sure and stay far enough from the cliff. There was a picture, I don't know where I have that picture from, where I got that from, but it's when you imagine a cliff and you're standing right at the edge of it, it's just one step and you're falling down the cliff. But a boundary is there, you stay 10 steps away from the cliff. Even if you take 3 steps in, you won't fall off right away, but there'll still be that 7 steps more of protection that won't make you fall so deep, but or in any cases, in a sin that you cannot take back anymore. Maybe it's then not just, okay, you met alone, but it's you met alone and you kissed and you slept with each other. That's something, you fall over the cliff, you cannot take that back.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead of, okay, I met with her once, I shouldn't have done that, but that was the boundary I overstepped. I can still go back from that.
Yeah, you want some safety margin between you and that cliff, actually.
Yeah. But what are those boundaries? Of course, there are boundaries like not meeting the person privately, but are there other boundaries that we can use or consider?
I think you should always have somebody else involved in it. So not keep that friendship, so to say, to yourself, but have somebody else, if it's a leader or somebody, to have that person to be able to speak into your life. If it's a pastor or an elder or a youth leader, then in that case, to be able to say, hey, I see that friendship going, and it's okay that you're friends, but just be careful about that. Yeah, take a little step back. Don't write her every day. Don't spend that much time with her. I think to have people like that have a view on your life and not just be by yourself, an island of solitude.
While you said, I was just thinking about it's also important what you write. Your female or male friend, the friend of the opposite sex, because sometimes there are some texts that are not appropriate for us Christians. Even though you have no intention, but you write, "Hey, sweetie, love you," whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not a romantic love that you just wanted to write and text her or so, but you never know what happens. And now imagine. So what I would say is, when it comes to emotions, you really have to be careful between opposite sexes. Let's say somebody becomes vulnerable because some tragic thing or drama happened in their lives, and they are devastated, they are down, they are crying. Of course, as a friend, you would like to help. But the thing is, it also could be dangerous. It doesn't have to be all the time, of course, and we don't always want to see it negative, but just for you guys to be aware. Let's say it's a female friend and you're a guy, and she's devastated, and you are with her alone, and you are just comforting her, and out of those strong emotions that occurred in that situation, it could happen that it goes a little too far, because you are here, you hold her hands just a little bit, or you stroke over her back a little bit just to pat her on the back, to just to support her, and all of a sudden some other feelings may arise, not just after 1 minute or so. I'm talking, after a certain time, and all of a sudden people, start kissing. And other things. And it used to be just a regular friendship, and all of a sudden it has become a romantic friendship. And all of a sudden it may end farther than you really thought it would end. Maybe. And this is just painting, I guess, the worst case scenario, but this could happen. So that's why we have to be aware. That's why we have to have the safety margin that you guys talked about, and have some borders, and just to protect ourselves. Are all those borders necessary? Probably not for everybody, but rather safe than be sorry.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, those borders are also important in your marriage. I think, or that's also a border that you can take, is if you have a conversation with that person who comes too close to you when you're married, and then you just tell the person, hey, I'm married, I have certain boundaries. We can talk about things, but not about all things, and there are some things that are appropriate, and there are some other things that are not appropriate, like, I don't know, greet each other with a hug or something like that, or whatever, or different conversation about their private life, that you have a conversation with that person, tell them, hey, that's inappropriate, I'm married, please stop that.
How do I look in that dress?
Or that's a perfect question. Yeah, like not a perfect question, but yeah, that's a perfect example to ask, and then that's an appropriate conversation that you have. And so that's also, I think, a boundary that you should consider or look at. Yeah.
Yeah, just or you also have to be careful what comments you just say. Oh, you're hot today. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, sexy, and go on, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not, maybe no intentions, but the thing is, other people may hear it as well.
Yeah.
And think, what is going on?
Yeah.
And especially if you are then married.
Yeah.
And churches consist of people, and not all of them are mature, and people like to talk.
Yeah.
And even though they shouldn't, but you can't prevent it. They will. And so that's why we have to be careful how we treat each other. Yeah.
I mean, compliments in general I think, could be dangerous, especially when even though there's nothing behind it, you say, oh, hey, hot stuff or something like that. That other person that gets that attention probably has something in their mind, or it's like, oh, he complimented my dress or my shoes or whatever, and it can get you two ideas if you get too many compliments from the same person. I think so. I think in general, giving out compliments could be a dangerous thing.
I would say not to give compliments is also not the solution, of course.
Yeah.
But you really have to be careful
Yeah,
not to
yeah.
overdo it, and especially if that lady or that man has some trouble with some, let's say, holiness issues, and you address a few things and compliment them, then they may pursue behavior that is not good for them, and so you have to be careful with that. But I don't see anything wrong just to compliment people
of
also
course
from
not,
the
yeah.
opposite sex. But like you said, you have to be careful, and of course, and maybe I add that, and when you are married, you have to, your wife needs to know about that friend that you have,
Of course, yeah.
especially if that friend is from the opposite sex, and they should know each other as well.
Yeah.
It's and it's best that they really communicate good enough with each other. And you also have to check if your wife is really fine with that friendship, because if she's not fine with that friendship, then you have to think about, just ending this friendship, because you are married not to your friend, you are married to your wife, and priority is your wife, your family that God gave you. And in this case, then this friendship might have to end. Might. It does not always have to be that case.
Talking
It
about
could.
talking about the compliments reminded me of something. I know some guys that did that already. For Valentine's Day, they just gave roses, for example, flowers, to all the girls, or compliments to all the girls, and not just specific one girl all the time, to try to, send signals. So that, because that's like even stronger than just giving compliments, what they did, giving presents for Valentine's Day. But it's something important and good, I think, even in church, when there is like a sort of attention and appreciation for everyone, of course, not just the opposite sex, also the same sex, but also the opposite sex. Also, because if people don't get any attention at all, then they become so desperate, and then bad things happen. That was even an intention why they gave those Valentine's gifts, so that they don't feel alone and sad and, have stupid thoughts then, or fantasies, or, but now I want to have a friend or whatever, a boyfriend. And so if people get some attention, then they are maybe not as desperate or do stupid things, looking out in the world maybe, because in church no one likes me. So I'm going to get some attention outside. And there you have no boundaries anymore at all, and there it's getting really dangerous. So that's why I think it's even important in church that you have a culture of somehow appreciating and complimenting each other, even between the opposite sex. But it needs to have this.
It needs to be balanced
healthy,
somehow.
Yes, healthy balance, exactly. And then it can be a good thing.
I mean, there are compliments and there are compliments. So I mean,
pick-up lines.
Yeah. so that's the thing. And that's what I meant with watching out what kind of compliments you give that person, because, like I said, there are compliments that are good for the person and that could probably help the person in whatever way, but there are also compliments that can make you feel a type of way and a type of way about that person, and that's, I think, the dangerous part. Even though there's probably no intention behind that from the other person might think otherwise. So yeah, that's why. Of course, I'm not a bad guy, and don't give out compliments to my brothers and sisters. Don't think of it that way, but yeah. Just want to clear that up for you.
and of course, if you are single in a church and you eventually want to marry somehow, of course you have to meet somehow the opposite sex. But this would be a dating episode then if we would go on and talk about that. So it's not like we are actually totally against having contact with the opposite sex, but that would be stupid. But we really just have to be careful and consider the way we behave.
Yeah. And how deep you want to get in that friendship. even while you are still single. Like every friendship that you're gonna have with the opposite sex, you're gonna make experience and have memories from that person, and you're gonna get more like vertraut, more trusted to each other, and like a bigger bond is gonna be made there. And then when you end up then with another girl and you have to stop that friendship completely because you are married now, for example, then it's like also strange for that friendship, because then that friendship cannot continue anymore as it used to. And it's maybe even hurtful then or something for that other person. So I would always be very careful about how deep you get in the friendship with the other sex, and really pray about it, what Stephen said, have a pastor or a leader that you have in it maybe for advice, or just, that sees from the outside into it. Yeah, just so that you have good decisions that you will not regret in the end.
Yeah. Anyway, this would be more dating. We are not talking too much about it, but just one little thing is if people want to date in our Christian community, then they date with the purpose of finding their future partner. And in that dating situation, they should start having deep conversations.
Yeah,
and still, it could end up that they are not getting married. And well, then they have those deep conversations, but it was a dating process already, and it was the marriage was already in mind, both of them, even though it did not happen at the end. So this is a different thing, a different scenario to a regular friendship or a friendship of opposite sexes. So I think that's it about dating.
yeah. But that was an important comment, because of course there are times where you make that conscious choice to go that next step, but it should be conscious and not just happen, like that anywhere, anytime with anyone.
Yeah. There's since you talked about boundaries, one other indicator and thing is that you can notice it also from the outside, from a point of a leader now, when the friendship starts to be about them instead of a hobby or something they have in common. For example, you have a girl and a guy, they, for example, both like basketball or they like sports in general and talk about sports the whole time. And all of a sudden, you notice how they stop talking about sports and just turning towards each other and talking about, oh, how was your day? And how are you? And oh, this and oh, you look so great. And it gets about them. That's also an indicator, okay, this is not a friendship anymore, but it's going into the dating phase where it's like about them, where that's like a picture. Friends, they walk next to each other to a common goal. And then when they turn towards each other, that's when the relationship starts, because they don't have the goal in sight, but each other.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And when
That's
you
a good point.
Very good one. Yeah. I remember this from one of his youth teachings back then. And really, the moment that you turn towards each other and face each other, look at each other, like he said, then the Lord should be in it already. It shouldn't just be your own flesh who wants to do it, or, like pastors. But we don't want to go too much to the dating. But
and I do like it. It's a very good thing, a very good illustration. But on the other hand, it's, a friend is there in times of need. So if there is a need, then somehow you have to turn towards each other somehow. So just I wanted to say that
just
as
throwing
well.
that in.
It probably depends how long you are looking at it.
Right, now we're getting to it.
If it's longer than an hour, then it's about you guys.
And if it's not a sad situation or somebody's really in need that they have to take care for each other, it's a different thing. Yeah, of course.
Same with handshakes. Everything above 5 seconds, relationship.
Wow.
I wouldn't say that, but there are some touchy people and also touchy people in our churches. And when they give you the hand, they grab your hand and they are not letting go of your hands, till they are done with whatever they want to say.
Yeah.
And that's awkward.
Those are very awkward moments.
Yeah.
I have that with a few elderly sisters in our churches.
Sisters?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
we just heard it. Everything above 5 seconds.
Thing is, they see me
your
as,
wife needs to listen to that episode. Go on.
They see me as sons. That's what they always say. They see me as sons, and sometimes, the hands, they're just too long, and I'll be like, okay, time to pull away now. But they they have a grip, man. That's a grip.
Oh,
They
yeah.
hold on to you. So it's, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we have.
And of course, like you said, it's elderly ladies. Usually they don't have any romantic intentions, doing
I
so
hope
and so
not.
on. And they just may have a need of, talking with somebody or so. But still, I understand if this is too long, it feels awkward.
It's just awkward situation. A very awkward situation.
Except you are a touchy guy yourself, then you may enjoy it. I don't know.
I am not a touchy guy. No. Mm-mm.
What are you trying to say? Sebastian?
I was
This
raising
movement.
up my arms because I'm a bit more the touchy guy, and
True, yeah.
and I can just out of my heart give them that moment and enjoy to be there for them and be a brother.
Yeah.
He does. I would go crazy.
Yeah. See, you are so much better than we.
Yeah, you are. You're a touchy guy. That's good. That's good. We can't do it. We sweat.
Slip out.
Yeah, we just woo.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, well, back to
opposite
Yeah,
sex.
do you have something or no?
All the things we said, a pastor already put a disclaimer on it, and the same thing is here now. All these, I think, is important to say is our opinions and experiences that we made. There's nothing like biblical foundation right now that we have. Okay, we have some indicators and things like we said, experience, but it's not that the Bible says you cannot have friends with the opposite sex. You cannot be friends.
Yeah.
That's just not defined. And so I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer as well. It's our opinions and experiences that we share here.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's why we cannot give a definite answer.
Yeah.
The only thing is we are God is holy, and we are also supposed to live holy. So
Exactly.
all friendships, everything we do, our whole conduct in life should be holy.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that we really need to consider, especially when dealing with the opposite sex or in general dealing with people.
We just want to give out safeguards that you can just live a Christian life, because we all want to go up, I hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the world has become crazy, and this craziness tries to sweep into our community, a Christian community in our churches and life. So and our families, and it seems like everything is okay, everything is fine, but the devil is using it to destroy people, relationships, and so on. And that's why we were just very cautious today in our advices.
Exactly. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll be here next week on Thursday. Come by and listen in. And so I would say so long until next time.
Goodbye.
Until then.
See you now. Hear you next time.